Today we're diving into the incredible story of Isaiah, one of the most fascinating prophets in the Bible. His life, his mission, and his powerful words have inspired people for thousands of years. From tales of divine judgment to promises of hope and salvation, Isaiah's messages resonate just as powerfully today as they did centuries ago. So, grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's explore this incredible story together. Picture this. It's around the 8th century BCE, and the kingdom of Judah is facing chaos. Foreign powers are threatening its borders, the leaders are corrupt, and the people have turned away from God. It's a time of fear, uncertainty, and moral decay. And then, out of nowhere comes a man with a message. A man who dares to speak truth to power and call people back to their faith. That man is Isaiah, the prophet of salvation and divine judgment. Scientific explanation: the role of prophets. Before we dive into the heart of Isaiah's story, let's quickly break down what prophets were all about. In ancient times, prophets weren't just religious figures. They were also social critics, political advisors, and moral guides. They were believed to be chosen by God to deliver messages to the people, often about the consequences of their actions. Isaiah, in particular, stands out for his poetic style and the depth of his visions. Scholars often describe his work as a masterpiece of Hebrew literature, filled with vivid imagery and profound insights. Prophets served as intermediaries between God and the people, bridging the gap between the divine and the earthly. They were not fortune tellers but messengers, bringing divine revelation to guide, correct, and inspire. Isaiah's role in this tradition is monumental, as his words are not only historical but also prophetic in ways that transcend time. Isaiah's calling, a life-changing vision. Isaiah's journey begins with an extraordinary encounter with God. In chapter 6 of the book of Isaiah, he describes a vision of the Lord sitting on a high and exalted throne, with the train of his robe filling the temple. Seraphim, heavenly beings, surround the throne proclaiming, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory." Overwhelmed by the sheer majesty of this vision, Isaiah cries out, "Woe to me, I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips." But then, one of the seraphim touches his lips with a burning coal, symbolizing his purification. When God asks, "Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?" Isaiah responds with the famous words, "Here am I, send me." This moment marks a turning point, not just for Isaiah but for the people of Judah. It's a powerful reminder that even the most flawed individuals can be called to do extraordinary things. Isaiah's willingness to answer God's call sets the stage for a lifetime of service, sacrifice, and unwavering faith. The message of judgment. Isaiah's mission was clear: to call out the sins of the people and warn them of the consequences. He didn't hold back. He condemned corruption, idolatry, and social injustice, reminding the people that their actions had real consequences. In chapter 1, he paints a grim picture of Judah's moral state, describing it as a rebellious nation laden with sin. His words are sharp and unyielding, designed to shake the people from their complacency. He speaks of a vineyard, a metaphor for Israel, that has produced only bad fruit despite being lovingly cared for. This imagery underscores the people's failure to live up to their covenant with God. But Isaiah wasn't just about doom and gloom. Even in his messages of judgment, there was always a glimmer of hope, a promise that God's discipline was meant to bring restoration, not destruction. He warns that while God's judgment is inevitable, it is also redemptive. The goal is not to annihilate but to refine, to purify the people, and bring them back to righteousness. The promise of a Messiah. One of the most remarkable aspects of Isaiah's prophecies is his foretelling of the Messiah. In chapter 9, he speaks of a child who will be born, a child who will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace. This prophecy is often read during Christmas celebrations, as Christians believe it points to Jesus Christ. Isaiah also describes the suffering servant in chapter 53, a figure who would bear the sins of many and bring healing through his suffering. This profound imagery has been a source of comfort and inspiration for countless believers. The suffering servant is depicted as one who is despised and rejected, a man of sorrows acquainted with grief. Yet, through his wounds, many are healed. These prophecies are not just predictions. They are profound theological statements about the nature of salvation. They highlight the tension between judgment and grace, justice and mercy. Isaiah's vision of the Messiah is one of hope and redemption, a promise that God's love will triumph over sin and death. Messages of hope and restoration. Despite the warnings and judgments, Isaiah's messages are ultimately filled with hope. He speaks of a time when God will create a new heaven and a new earth, where there will be no more sorrow or pain. In chapter 40, he offers words of comfort, saying, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God." Isaiah's vision of a peaceful world where nations beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks is one of the most beautiful depictions of harmony and justice in the Bible. This vision is not just about the absence of war, but the presence of justice, righteousness, and peace. The prophet also speaks of the inclusion of all nations in God's plan of salvation. In chapter 56, he declares that God's house will be a house of prayer for all peoples. This universal vision of God's kingdom is revolutionary, breaking down barriers and inviting everyone to partake in his blessings. Isaiah's challenges and legacy. Isaiah's life wasn't easy. He faced opposition from leaders and false prophets, and his messages weren't always well received. But he remained steadfast, trusting in God's plan and persevering in his mission. One of the most striking aspects of Isaiah's ministry was his use of symbolic actions to convey his messages. For instance, in chapter 20, God asks him to walk barefoot and stripped of his outer garments for 3 years as a sign against Egypt and Cush. This act must have been incredibly challenging, but it underscores Isaiah's commitment to his calling. His legacy, however, extends far beyond his lifetime. The book of Isaiah has been a source of inspiration for countless generations, influencing not just religious thought but also art, literature, and music. His words have been quoted by leaders and reformers, from Jesus Christ to Martin Luther King Jr., highlighting their enduring relevance. Isaiah's enduring message. Isaiah's story is a powerful reminder of God's justice, love, and faithfulness. His words challenge us to live with integrity, seek justice, and trust in God's promises, even when times are tough. They also offer a vision of a future filled with hope, where peace and righteousness reign. Isaiah's life is a testament to the transformative power of faith. His courage, humility, and unwavering commitment to God's mission inspire us to reflect on our own lives. Are we listening to God's call? Are we willing to stand up for what is right, even when it's difficult? These are the questions that Isaiah's story compels us to ask. So, what can we learn from Isaiah? Whether you're facing challenges in your life or seeking inspiration to make a difference in the world, Isaiah's story reminds us that we are never alone. God's love and promises are eternal, and He has a plan for each of us. If this story has touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button, share this video with your friends and family, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content like this. Together we can spread messages of hope, love, and faith to the world. Thanks for watching, and until next time, may God bless you richly.